Mary Hagen, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Arizona. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about choosing people over automation in the age of digital safety. It's a really interesting time with so much digital disruption, AI, deep machine learning, all of these things becoming ubiquitous and just part of our everyday lives, our work lives, and organizations trying to figure out how to integrate these systems into their work processes and everything. It's you know I guess there's this ongoing tension, right? Of like, how do you do this? How do you do it safely, while maintaining, oversight, but also not like complete big brother like kind of an environment with your people and your employees, and helping people really still feel like valued assets and valued people within the organization. So this is really what we're going to be exploring together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Mary's bio with everybody. Passionate about giving back and leaving a positive impact, Mary Hagen is the proud CEO of Colossal, the leading nationally registered professional fundraiser. Under Hagen's leadership since 2021, Colossal has made an extraordinary impact on fundraising with a commitment to supporting diverse charitable causes and organizations across the globe, raising a remarkable 183 million. Its innovative online competitions, Hagen has successfully showcased that Colossal's unique approach to philanthropy is an effective model for ultramodern times. I could go on, but I'm going to pause there, Mary. Anything you would like to highlight about your own personal background, Colossal, anything like that before we dive on into the broader conversation?
Sure. Thanks, John. Thanks for the opportunity. For me personally, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business and I've been building businesses always with some sort of positive social impact at their core for over a decade now. I've been running competitions like what we do at Colossal for almost 10 years as well. Not always as Colossal. We founded Colossal in 2021, and it was with this kind of light bulb with me and the other founders of, hey, we have something really powerful here that people like to get on board with. Let's take it to 11 and make a real positive change in the world, right? And so since then, it's been this really cool growth journey of just blowing up fundraising through competition. And I'm really excited to talk more about that with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, first, I love the social impact lens through which you do everything. I kind of wear multiple hats in my world. I'm a professor. That's first and foremost what I do in the business world. I'm an organizational change management professor and do research in the space, but I also am a social impact and social change academic and do work in that space and do practitioner work in that space. And then I do consulting work and stuff like this podcast that are kind of like side things. And anyways, so I love engaging with folks who are really heavily engaged in the social impact space beyond just the social entrepreneurship is great. And in the business world, when you say the phrase social impact, that's usually what most people go to. They think about social impact investing, or they think about social entrepreneurship, both of which are great, and both of which are really important pieces, right? But they're only pieces, or a couple of the pathways towards social impact, and there's other more holistic approaches to getting about it. And philanthropy is another really important piece, and it's not one I really get a chance to talk to people about as much. So I really appreciate this opportunity to have the conversation with you. Um, all right, let's dig in. I would love to hear more about, like, what do these competitions look like with Colossal? Because you've clearly had huge success over the last 4 or 5 years.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey and it's been fun. So the way that I describe what Colossal does to folks is that we run purpose-driven online competitions that raise money for charity, right? It's this really unique way of bringing people together to compete for something extraordinary for themselves while making a positive impact in the world. And so, we like the win-win-win narrative, right? So are the people who participate in a Colossal competition, they obviously have the opportunity to win, but we also add value throughout the entire experience to make sure that the nature of competition is that one person wins and the others don't. But if you're part of something bigger than yourself, you won anyways, right? And at least that's my philosophy in life. And on the other side of that, as this awesome community of competitive folks comes together, they're raising awareness all over the internet and raising real dollars for a really important and related cause. So it's a really cool spin on crowdfunding or micro giving, where a lot of people come together to give a little bit that ultimately results in a really big impact. And so that's what we do here. And the soup to nuts of it is that Colossal comes up with the competition. We say, hey, it would be really cool to run a competition for people who love their pets. Let's run America's favorite pet. It's one of my personal favorites that we do. People from all over the country sign up their cat or their dog to be on the cover of Modern Cat or Modern Dog magazine. And then they kind of rally the people in their lives, their friends, their family, their neighbors, their coworkers, to vote for their cat or their dog to be America's favorite. And then ultimately, Colossal doesn't choose the champions, the public does. And at the end, somebody wins $10,000 and their dog or cat is featured on the cover of a magazine. It's really fun. The aspect of public voting is another thing that I think is really just cool and unique about what we do, in that it gives sort of agency to the competitors and their supporters over what the outcome of the campaign is, if that makes sense. So we're always kind of keeping keeping the power in the hands of the people. And
Yeah.
and America's Favorite Pet is a personal favorite, but it's obviously not the only campaign we run. We the way I've been saying it these days, which is fun to say because I've been doing this so long now, but we kind of have something for everybody now. We run Super Mom, we run Mr. and Miss Health and Fitness, we've got Favorite Chef, Face of Halloween, Baby of the Year. It's kind of like whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're great at, Colossal probably has a competition opportunity for you to participate in. And then the beauty of it, again, is while you advocate for yourself and try to win this thing and change your life and elevate your life, you just so happen to be making a really big impact for a related cause at the same time. So America's Favorite Pet benefits PAWS, and Supermom benefits Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And so we always pair the charity with a competition that makes sense. So that's sort of the soup to nuts of what a competition is and how it works. And Colossal, we not only run the competition, we curate the prizes, we support the competitions, we operate the whole thing from the end, and we deliver the prizes. So that's the business.
Yeah, and so that's really cool. So like in a typical campaign, like in one of these competitions, what might you expect uh to raise?
They really run the gambit now. I'll give you a little short, very brief history. I remember the day where we ran our first competition. It raised about $300 or $300,000 for Be Positive Foundation. This is almost 10 years ago, under a different model. And we were like, wow, we've really made it.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I
yeah.
remember a few years later, we made our first seven-figure raise. We raised exactly like $1 million in one. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is our Everest. We've raised $1 million through one of these competitions. And then just last year, we hit a new record, and it's climbed since. We didn't go from 1 million to this, but we raised $22 million for Baby to Baby. And
Nice.
so we keep raising the bar. And so now I sort of don't know what to expect. I think these things could really just keep scaling. But ultimately, on average, we're kind of in the $5 to $10 million range for every competition now, which is incredible.
Yeah, I mean that's completely amazing. So kudos, kudos to finding like this really cool niche, like approach and strategy towards business and philanthropy and driving impact in the world. That's really awesome. All right, so as we dive in further now to talking about this automation piece, digital safety, we live in the AI age. We live in automation taking over and so many people are worried about being displaced by automation. People are worried about being constantly monitored in their workplace. There's all these components that just make people really uncertain and uncomfortable and distrustful of their organizations. Can you speak a little bit to like some of what your approach has been in your organization? And then maybe we can dissect that a little bit and think, about what leaders more generally can be doing.
Absolutely. This is something I'm really passionate about, so I'm so happy to have a platform to talk about it. I now on the managerial side of things, that one's easy, so I'll nip it in the bud. I like to lead, and I always have, with a style of autonomy, and focus on results. So for me, I don't need butts in chairs to have butts in chairs, and I don't need to monitor your every move. I'm focused on results. Are you getting the job done? Are you getting it done well? Um, Sorry, I have a hair. Um, if that's the case, it's a regular problem. If that's the case, I don't need to know more. I like to give people a lot of autonomy, and again, it's a management style of leaving the power with the people, right? If you can show up and do your job and do it well, you've got a place here at Colossal. Um, so we don't have a lot of heavy monitoring and micromanaging, and we don't use technology to do that either. Now, on the safety security side, we leverage technology to make sure that we're using secure platforms, that things are gated, that information is not just available to everyone. So we absolutely follow best practices when it comes to data security. Um, Now, on the side of displacing people, Colossal adopts this approach of having technology and people complement each other and really leveraging technology and the best tech that's out there to empower people to move faster and do better and make less errors, but not to replace them by any stretch. And I still find that as clever as AI is getting, it doesn't replace human intuition. It just doesn't. At our company, every single support ticket that comes in is responded to by a human. We don't even use bots to respond, and we're handling hundreds of thousands of tickets, right, at scale, and humans do that still. Our humans actually hands on keyboards engage with social media, and we moderate comments, and we've got a team that engages with folks in real time with a real human touch, because I just think that's important. um, on the marketing side, even our team leverages AI to maybe solve for writer's block, or get a draft out faster. But every final product that you see that comes out from Colossal, a human has had hands on. And
Yeah.
so again, it's just a tool that we leverage to be maybe more operationally efficient, but certainly not replacing people at our company. And I don't see a day where that will come for us. Now, even on a compliance side, we do field millions of votes, millions of dollars, millions of votes, hundreds of thousands of people on a daily basis, and it is a lift logistically. It is a lift. So it's another great example, though, where we leverage technology to kind of handle things at scale, but we have human teams that basically do the double click, you know? So on a compliance side of things for eligibility, we do have an AI system that will check registrations and kind of field through anything that looks questionable, but a human team still comes in as the double click to make sure that that was really thorough. And ultimately, leveraging both of those resources is how we protect the integrity of the competitions.
Yeah, so much there that you just said that I'm going to try to kind of swing back on, and I'll see if I can hit some of those things again. First, you talked about kind of this old school mentality of butts and seats. Um, that can take a couple different forms. That can literally be like physically butts and seats in the office, return to office mandates, like we need people physically there. But even in a remote work environment, like there are people that have keystroke trackers, or like monitoring the amount of time your computer's on. And so, people have like those little gadgets that will like have your mouse move and stuff. Like it's silly, right? Like there are ways around those types of monitoring. But it's really silly. I mean, we've all seen, when you have a butts and seats kind of policy, we've all seen people who are there physically but aren't doing anything. Like they're not producing anything, and they're not being effective. And in some cases they're actually detracting from collaboration and productivity. So there's nothing magical about like butts and seats as a metric towards like accomplishing stuff. And it's really an old school kind of mentality. from an old style managerial practice of like managing by walking around and that kind of stuff, right? And I get it. I understand why people have used that approach in the past and why they still continue to want to use that approach. And they probably wouldn't see it as micromanaging. But especially when you get to the point where you're using software to track keystrokes and you're using software to track every last thing that every last minute of the day that your employees doing on their device, it you whether the employer is actually spending time digging into the logs and looking at everything you're doing, just the fact that they are monitoring everything and that they can, it just it sends a vibe, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that is
You feel,
disconcerting.
yeah, I think it would make you feel uncomfortable and squeezed, right? And
Mhm.
it's like when you're in a meeting and I can type a million miles a minute, right? But then if I'm in front of like 20 people and my laptop is the one sharing on the big screen, it's like you make so many typos and you can't type right. And that's how I feel about that kind of management, is that you can't do your best work, right? You can't. It just doesn't come out. It's like you suddenly can't type.
Yeah, nobody likes having someone looking over their shoulder, right?
Oh,
It's that kind of an environment, and so it does come down to trust. And I think good leadership comes down to trust. I think empowering your people, which everyone, I think if you poll, leaders, pretty much everyone is going to say, yeah, I want to empower my people. Yeah, I don't want to micromanage them. Like everyone knows that micromanagement is bad and empowerment is good. But it's a matter of trust, and not everyone trusts. And when a manager, like say a middle manager or even on up to senior executive levels, when you're held to performance standards and you have your KPIs, and you feel squeezed, what do you tend to do? Like you tend to squeeze the people below you, right? And it becomes this pattern that you have to like consciously choose to disrupt.
yeah,
And it's unfortunate. Like if you're in an environment where you feel that pressure, that's unfortunate, but you still have like your sphere of influence, and you still have like the control over the culture of your team, and you get to decide like what your environment's going to be like. And the irony is, like, if you can create an environment where people feel trusted and valued, where they can like experiment and they're not afraid to try stuff, and they're not afraid to like quote unquote fail, try stuff and then like learn from it and then like try again and just be creative and do their best work. Like the irony is, in that environment where people have autonomy and where they're going to do better work, and they're going to help you look better, and you're going to hit your metrics, and you're going to like rising tide lifts all ships, and everyone's going to look better, right? and
absolutely.
and the environment where you're squeezing people and you're monitoring people and you're micromanaging people, whether that's your intention or not, when that is what comes across to your people, then then there's all sorts of negative consequences that come from that, and you're just not going to get as much productivity from them. You might
Yeah,
in the short term carrot and stick, and you might in the short term get stuff from people, but it's not sustainable. And in the long run, people burn out, people leave. Your best people certainly will leave, and it's just not going to be good for you, for your team, or for the company. And so,
yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to double click on what you said there, because I think that's just really, really important, that we move beyond the kind of that old school mentality, and we get towards performance and outcomes,
Yeah,
not how you do the work, but like what you accomplish with the work that you do, right?
absolutely. Well, and just to double click on the trust factor that you mentioned, right? The trust. It does come down to trust, right? Not needing to monitor people's keystrokes throughout the day comes down to trust. And I think it's I encourage leaders to think about what you're putting your trust in. Are you really concerned with how many keystrokes somebody made? If they're not really quality keystrokes, I'd rather you do one really great thing a day than 100 mediocre things in a day, right? And that's
Yeah.
that's where I like to give people a lot of autonomy. And not every leader agrees with that management style, but I personally don't think that it's loose. I actually think that it's tighter, right? Because my people know that the expectation is excellent work, right?
Yeah.
Um And so your actual outcome of your work is the expectation and is the bar, right? And so I'm not concerned with you spending 8 hours a day doing mediocre work. I'm concerned with you just doing really good work when you do it. And I think that we've had really good success with that at our company.
Yeah, exactly. So you still have very clear expectations, high standards, right? Nobody's saying to get rid of those. You're just not, you don't care how people get to them. You know,
Exactly.
you're
Exactly.
you know, you recognize that there's all these different paths to get to the good outputs.
One,
And in fact, you don't want a bunch of little mini me's, right? You don't want a bunch of little yous running around doing exactly work the exact same way you would do it, because then you lose the magic of like all the cool creative ways people do stuff.
yeah, absolutely. And there's some arguments out there that it's not scalable to operate that way, right? Like that, like you have to be able to track and people and productivity and whatnot. I have found the exact opposite, that tracking everybody's every single move is remarkably not scalable. It is so much work. It is so much work,
Yeah.
right, for your leaders to manage in that way. So yeah, I have a differing opinion from a lot of people in my position, but we've found success here. So
Well, from a like research standpoint, I think it backs you up. Like,
I appreciate
there's tons and tons of research that backs up your approach. So
that.
I think you're onto something. And then you talked about whether we're talking about um, the safety monitoring protocols, using best practices, of course, always important. And then utilizing AI. You framed it in terms of leveraging the tools in a way that's going to help you do good work, and in some cases, kind of unlock this where you're stuck, right? Which has I found to be an incredible use of AI, because we all get there. We all find ourselves stuck all the time, and so it's an incredible like brainstorming partner. It's an incredible way to just kind of get the ball rolling and then be a springboard to build off of. um, but there always needs to be it's an augmentation of your human talent, and there always has to be that humanness to what you're doing, because we've also all seen the AI slop that comes out all over the place, and you can tell the difference. Like, and so you have to have a human hand on everything to verify, that there's not hallucinations, there's not false information, but also just to provide the human touch and to make sure that it actually comes across in the way that you want it to, that's like appropriate with your brand, and that's appropriate with like the audience you're trying to reach, and all that kind of stuff. AI has gotten so much better, and it can get you pretty far along the path, but it's an augmentation tool, and it's not going to do everything for you. And so that's, when I think about displacement, I think about certain tasks, especially kind of entry level, kind of early early on tasks in a workflow. I see AI being able to help with, and being able to even perhaps displace, but certainly not the entire workflow, and certainly not um, higher order kind of human intuition and decision making and those sorts of things. And so I think it means we have to lean into the tool. We need to learn how to leverage it. We need to learn um, how we can augment our own abilities via the tool, and then of course use it ethically, right? And if we can do that, I think we're going to be, in a better place.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely agreed. Absolutely agree. I think the use of AI and the use of technology as a tool that actually empowers your team to be stronger and more efficient and faster is absolutely the answer.
Yeah. Well, Mary, this has just been a great conversation. I note the time. I need to let you go here in a minute, but before we wrap things up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word for today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time, John. I always encourage people just go visit us at colossal.org. We're also on social we run the gambit, Meta, TikTok, all of it. We have some really cool stuff out there, and we're doing some really big things in the world. And we always appreciate the opportunity to make a big impact together.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Mary. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Colossal can do for you in the world of social impact, in terms of philanthropy, and in terms of thinking about automation and autonomy and all of those sorts of things. Great, great conversation today. Um, and as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.